Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our first live creator chat of the day with comic creator Emma Kubert. Before we begin, I'll be starting with some interview questions, but please remember that this is an interactive chat and we encourage you to ask Emma as many questions as you'd like through the Zoom chat feature. I'll be keeping an eye out on the text fields and then I'll be reading any questions you post throughout live on air. And now that that is out of the way, let's get started. Once again, with me today is Emma Kubert. She is a freelance comic book artist, writer, and graduate of the Kubert School. She has freelanced for various companies such as DC Entertainment, Dynamite Entertainment, 20th Century Fox, and Image Comics. No big deal. Emma recently penciled, inked, and colored for DC Entertainment's DC Superheroes Girls and Teen Titans Go, and drew layouts for the company's young adult novel, Raven. Though she loves superheroes, fantasy is her favorite genre, and she's extremely pumped to be presenting the second volume in her INKBLOT series with co-creator and partner in crime, Rusty Glad. Emma, thanks for being with us. I would love to hear a little bit about your series, especially for those of our patrons who may not have read it yet.
Okay. All right. I'm Emma, by the way, to everyone. Okay, so I have the log line up on my computer, so I'm going to read it for you all because memorization's not my strong suit. Okay. INKBLOT is a YA high fantasy ongoing comic series about a bookish girl called the Seeker and her mischievous black cat, which has an uncanny ability to defy the known laws of magic, nature, time, and space. So it's a pretty big story. So with INKBLOT, basically what we created is we created 7 different worlds, and we follow the story of sorcerers on Earth who are trying to get back into these other different realms. And as they're on Earth, they're slaying magical creatures and taking their power for themselves. And once they get enough power, they're able to go and break through the barriers and go to the different realms. Our protagonist, the Seeker, is the bookish girl basically behind all of these events. She's the one who's writing all of the magical history, all of the historical events, all of everything basically, as her siblings go forth conquering different realms, conquering different magical creatures, etc. And she builds a library just to plug that in there, but no, she does. She builds an entire infinite library of all of her magical findings. And the start of our story, the start of INKBLOT, is when she's been writing for like 600 years, no big deal. And she gets really tired. She knocks over a bottle of ink, and out comes a magical black cat that is the only thing in the universe that she completely does not understand. And INKBLOT is about her trying to capture this cat, trying to study this cat, trying to follow it wherever it goes because it's spontaneous and it goes wherever the heck it wants to go. And while she's doing this, she's unraveling a bigger plot underneath this. So she is the person behind history. She is the one that has been forgotten, who will end up having to save everyone.
Isn't that always the way?
Yeah. So there's the overview of INKBLOT right there.
So how did you guys get the idea for this series? I mean, it's sort of a simple and fun idea, but then it expands into this giant multiverse of possibilities. How long did it take you to develop it from like your initial idea to the finished page?
I would say the initial idea came like years ago when I was at school, when I was at the Kubert school. They have like assignments there that you can be very open with, and they very much encouraged you to create like your own stories, which honestly at that moment definitely did not want to do that. I was whining a lot about this this project. And so I started to come up with like things that I personally really liked and I was inspired by when I was younger. Like I used to watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Harry Potter, all that good stuff. But I also uh I knew that I just loved, you know, the witch and the black cat. Those were like the classic tropes that I always loved to see in any type of media. So when I had my chance to create my own type of story, a witch and a black cat kind of appeared. Now, that is a totally other story that I created. So as the years went on and Rusty got involved, we created something a lot bigger than what I initially had, and it expanded even more from there. So it's really like I started with the initial ideas, and then when I brought Rusty in, that's when we really developed it into something that's like epic, but also cute.
I love that description. It's so good. Epic, but also cute.
Yeah.
And then how has your partnership with Rusty sort of evolved along the way? Like the book is evolving, but obviously creators evolve in their styles as well. Now that you're on your second volume, is there anything that is moving or growing about the way you guys work together that has sort of surprised you?
I would say it hasn't really surprised me mostly. Like, I mean, so Rusty is, you know, he is my partner in this book, but he's also my partner in life.
Mhm.
So in the beginning, working on this, it was a little tough because, you know, you have to figure out how you do things, how you feel about things, how the system's gonna go. But as we kind of got through our first arc, we really started to hit a stride because we found, you know, what actually works for us and what makes us both do our best work while, you know, supporting one another, trying to get everything to be cohesive. Um, but I would say it gets better and better, to be honest. Like it honestly just like it grows because it just makes us more and more confident the more books that we put out. Like right in front of me, I have like all the books. And I'm just kind of looking at them and I'm like, oh my God, we created like 11 comics so far. but that's kind of like the crazy part about it is that just like we keep working and it's so streamlined now that I kind of like don't even notice that we've done 11 comics so far. And that's kind of the best part, you know, is that me and Rusty were just having a lot of fun working on this project and talking about it. And you can see right behind me, that's actually his station and this is mine. So like we work really close.
You
And
literally
it's
got
just
each
a
other's,
what? Sorry.
literally got each other's back there.
Oh, oh yeah. Hopefully we can find a new setup that has us like next to each other because I know sometimes he always has headphones on. I always scare him. He doesn't like
I
that.
would keep that dynamic, but that's yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, I would say the process just got even better and we just cemented our partnership even more with this because we're just we're just trying to put out the best story that we can possibly put out and have so much fun with it. So that's not going to happen if we disagree on everything.
That's true. You can really tell that it's working though. There's a lot of like chaotic good energy happening in the story.
I would describe myself as chaotic good, yes.
For sure. Most
It's
cats are chaotic neutral, but I think, yeah, I think you're
yeah,
chaotic.
yeah. I understand what you're saying. Yes, this cat is definitely somewhat. It can vary from chaotic good to chaotic neutral because this cat, we have 7 realms in this whole story, and the cat can go anywhere, can do anything, doesn't matter. It's just like a black floating void, just kind of hopping through all these realms. And it's just my favorite parts when I get to draw the cat like being a cat. Like in a recent issue that I'm drawing, uh the seeker's trying to get just a little spoiler, just a little. The seeker is trying to make a collar for the cat with bells on it. It's not gonna work. No, I'm kidding. I don't know if it will, but but the cat, like hears these bells and is trying to like chase after the bells, but like the cat is hopping from one realm to another to get to these bells to try to chase them. And that's like that's part of like the fun of it is that it's a cat and I want to make it a cat, but it's also magical. So you got to make it super scaled.
I had a cat for a little while, and we kept giving her belled collars because she was so small. She was easy to kind of, get underfoot. And she went through, I think, 4 or 5 of them. They kept disappearing. We buy her another one. They disappear. We buy her another one. Finally, we gave up. And then our landlords did some landscaping, and we discovered that she had been going into this one bush, and because it was a safety collar, she'd been intentionally snagging it and it popping right off her little neck. And there was like a treasure trove of little bells and collars in this bush. I love the idea that somehow this cat is going to leave just a trail of magical belled collars across like the 9 realms.
That would be nuts.
Yeah.
But that's honestly like my favorite part about this is that like you do have all of the cutesy stuff with the cat and with a lot of the other characters, but then you have like something that's just epic that's happening in the background, that's just a whole plot that's kind of unraveling.
Mhm.
But the thing is that you don't have to read it like that, Inkblot in general. Like I tried to make it so that each issue that I draw is somewhat of like a standalone type of issue, so that it takes place, a lot of the time in a new realm with other characters. We do revisit characters as well, but I try to make it so that you can literally pick up any issue of this comic and enjoy it. And then if you wanted to go back and read all of them in order, you have another story there too. So that's kind of something that I put in personally, just because I know how intimidating it can be getting into comics, especially when you kind of walk into the comic store and you see just a vast collection of like number 363 of this imprint over here. And you're just kind of like, where do I go from there? So with Inkblot, I very much wanted to make it so that you can go anywhere from anywhere you start.
Just like the cat. That is
Just
true.
like the cat.
Fantasy especially can be very intimidating because we know it to be epic. And so yeah, I think that's a great little way to allow readers to join at any time, this epic narrative that's also, as you said, a standalone.
Yes.
Since the cat can go anywhere and warp through time and space, and you have each of these issues that is its own world or worlds, against this epic backdrop, how do you go about melding those two things?
So our protagonist, the seeker, the forgotten person of history, the the person that's been stuck in her library for a very, very long time. So she's a little crazy. She's been writing a lot, so it makes sense. She's our protagonist, so she is our narrator, and she narrates every issue of INKBLOT. And she connects it. So she's basically researching this mysterious black cat and writing her findings as her narration throughout the entirety of INKBLOT. So that connection through each, issue, you do get through the seeker who, we see through her eyes, and basically she's just like, this little cat is the devil, and it keeps running away from me, and I don't understand how it can do any of this, and now it's unraveling everything that I've ever known, and I don't understand. And that's basically what it is that she's writing in her scientific sorcery journal, and she's trying to figure out, what this one thing that she didn't understand, the only thing that she doesn't understand, that's what she's trying to figure out through all of our issues. And maybe she'll find out.
Will she even know what to do with the answers if she finds them?
Who knows? It's a crazy cat. Like, how do you go from there? How do you control something like that? It's a cat, like your cat at home, probably you look one minute, it's there being really cute. Next minute you look again, gone. You don't know where it went. And that's exactly what the INKBLOT cat is. It's just gone one minute, there and the next, and you hope that you run into it again.
It is chaos. Can you understand chaos?
It's chaos, but there's a method to our madness, I promise.
Now, what do the seeker's siblings think of the cat? They encounter it sometimes. It influences or indirectly influences, a lot of their lives. What's their take on it?
I would say it's very indirect, but I would say most of the characters, actually a lot of the characters don't really know that this cat is like totally magical in like the extent that the seeker knows. So a lot of the characters that we meet throughout the series, there are a lot of the supporting characters, and it's not just the siblings. We have like the elf people, we have other sorcerers in other realms, we have sea creatures, just any mythical creature really that we kind of make up, that meet this cat. And honestly, they probably really don't know that this cat is like the most magical, powerful thing in the universe. They probably just think it's a cat, and maybe some of them think it has like really cute powers. But I think most of them really just don't know, and it's only the seeker, so it makes her that much more frustrated because it's the only thing unknown in this universe, and that's just so frustrating. Like, you just don't know this one thing.
I identify very hard with that.
Me too. I just I like when you find, like, when you're researching something and there's just like one thing that you just can't wrap your head around, it's the most frustrating thing ever. And that's basically what the seeker goes through, like mostly in the first and second volumes, is that she's just getting frustrated at this really, really cute cat that's just like seemingly a little mischievous, but not even really. Like, yes, but also no, I don't even know. It's just a cat.
The cat does not know either. Nathaniel Falk has a question. Nathaniel says, what would you say has been most challenging writing the series?
Ooh, okay. I would say the most challenging I'll say like on my part and Rusty's part. So like the way that we work is that we talk about the plot of each arc in each issue before we tackle the whole arc. And like we know everything that's going to happen like in the long run, but usually before each arc, Rusty and I, we just talk about it just in person, just in our studio. And we write down notes about each issue in that arc. So from those notes, a lot of the time, I'm just going to break down like 20 pages of layouts from those notes. And it's just me. It's basically me writing the action and the panels part in the script of a comic. And then once that's done and Rusty inks it, maybe we get coloring going and lettering. That's when Rusty writes the dialogue for it. And I think like the toughest part so far with both of those things is that now we're getting to volume 2, and actually we're working on arc 3 as well. And it's just, I think the most difficult part is just trying to get those connections connected. So we're like trying to introduce more, but we're also trying to connect things as well. And it's working, but you know, you have to go back on things. And that's probably just the toughest thing, is just to make sure that everything is coherent and cohesive in our story. And I think it is. I think it is. I'm pretty sure. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, you're weaving all of the threads.
Yes.
Somehow.
Somehow. It's chaotic, but it's a lot of fun. And honestly, the way that Rusty and I work, which is kind of like I would describe it similar to like the Marvel method of what like Stan Lee and Jack Kirby did, but maybe even a little more so because we're both the artists. But that's the fun part, is that like whenever I come up with layouts, or whenever he comes up with dialogue that's inspired by my layouts, it's spontaneous. It's just kind of improvisation, like riffing off of your partner, going back and forth, trying to come up with like some sort of awesome story. And the more creative we get, the better it is. And it's a lot of epic fun. It's a lot of spontaneity, and it's a lot of epicness, and it's so exciting to just come up with all the details and all the stuff.
I think that's how comics should be. I mean, it's how any profession should be, really, but like just a lot of fun, really enjoying what you do.
I think so too. And I mean, like I think creators would, some of them would benefit from doing it this method, but I know other creators that probably wouldn't work that well this way. And I mean, me personally, I work with my partner in life, so it's a little different than working with someone that I don't really know as well. But that's honestly probably why INKBLOT is so special, is because it's two people who like 100% know their story and want to make it as amazing as we possibly can. So like our egos out the door, they're gone. We just want to make an awesome story for us and for everyone else who reads it. So yeah.
It comes through, you know, the fun and the caring and like the adventurous spirit really comes through.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
A lot of our attendees actually are serving patrons who also have a lot of passion for comics, and you know, who want to get into it and are probably already writing their own and drawing their own comics with their friends while they're reading books like INKBLOT. As somebody who has a background in education, talking to people who might like to run short programming, you know, where they're just doing the most basic instruction for their patrons on what it's like to make a comic. Do you have any tips or pointers that you would give to them?
Well, honestly, I would say the biggest part of making your comic is just making sure that you have a solid story, a solid beginning, middle, and end, especially if you're starting out. And I think when I was starting to try to create my own stories, which I wasn't that good at in the beginning. Trust me.
That's why they call them beginners.
Yeah, that's why they're called beginners. I think the biggest thing that I realized is that storytelling is not like a talent that someone just has, it's a skill that you practice. So the more stories that you create, no matter how bad they are, no matter how much you hate them yourself that you're creating, keep creating them and keep pushing yourself to do better each time. And that's honestly how Rusty and I both got to INKBLOT, is that we just kept pushing ourselves to create a better and better story each time. And then another little tip is that if you have a really tough time coming up with stories, try to come up with your concept first and then your ending, and then piece it all together.
Yeah, I like that method. Yeah.
That's something that, like, I think I actually learned that from I remember I went to the Kubert school, if you didn't know. And I actually learned it in, I think, my 3rd year there, because Frank Miller visited the Kubert school, which was awesome. But he had a tip, which was literally come up with your ending first. So if you're ever trying to create your stories, try to come up with your ending first and then try to piece everything together from there. It's a lot easier than starting from the beginning and working your way to the end, because that's how I would create stories in the beginning, and I would never finish my stories because I didn't know the ending.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've no experience with that. Tell the newspapers I don't know.
I don't know how this crime story ends. I don't know. I don't know how it ends. But that's really like that's my main advice, is that keep working on your stories. Even if they're bad, keep pushing yourself to do better each time, and then come up with your ending first.
2 really great pieces of advice. There's nothing more unsatisfying than like watching or reading an amazing story and then getting to just about the end and realizing the creators have no idea what they're going to do.
Yes.
They don't know.
Yes, it's devastating for the creators. They're probably like in their room, like having a panic attack trying to come up with something, because it's real. It's very, very real emotion that probably from beginner to professional feels when they're trying to come up with a story. So it's like, keep going.
Keep pushing, for the love of God. So we're unfortunately just about out of time, but before we leave, I was hoping that you would tell everyone where they can find you outside of the conference.
Oh, yes. So I am on social media. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Emma Kubert. Simple, elegant. And you can find INKBLOT at your local comic shop, library, and anywhere else that they sell Image comics.
And if people would like to reach out after the conference with questions about Emma's work or about INKBLOT, or potentially about any library programming that you would like to set up with Emma and Rusty, you can reach me at Chloe Ramos at imagecomics.com for any of your library needs or crazy cat needs. Thank you so much, Emma, for coming out. I really appreciate your time today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Cool. Well, I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their conference. Emma, enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, we'll talk to you all soon. Have a great day, guys. Bye.